Hello, everyone.
Woo!
Hi. Well, okay, listen. Please keep those clapping hands going, but not for me. My name is Angelique Jackson. I'm one of the senior entertainment writers at Variety, and it is truly my pleasure to be here with you all as you just enjoyed that incredible film, Springsteen, Deliver Me from Nowhere. From the moment I saw this film, I knew that it was incredibly special, and I'm so glad to be here in a large group, all of us just kind of feeling together. That is sort of the most amazing things about movies. And a movie like this just kind of reminds us all what that experience should feel like, more so than even be, see, hear. I'm just, again, okay, so I think we've got the rest of the folks who are gonna be joining me on this stage now, because again, this is an incredible endeavor, and as you see all of these names go on this crawl, we have a few very special guests that are going to join us to talk about their contributions to this film. So, first up we have casting director Francine Maisler. Walk, y'all. Please keep the applause going. Followed by the incredibly talented Paul Walter Hauser. Next up, we have Odessa Young. Followed by Jeremy Strong. And last but certainly not least, the writer, director, and producer of this film, Scott Cooper.
Hey guys, thank you for coming out. Wow, what a turnout on the lot. Love it.
We were just talking a little bit outside about how special it is to just be on a studio lot and how much history there is. But what is it like to bring a film like this also here? Because this film is making history while also capturing history, kind of also simultaneously. It is unique in that way.
Yeah, and interesting, this is the third movie. I actually edited this film literally on the other side of the soundstage. And I edited Crazy Heart here and another one. So I'm very, very comfortable with the Fox lot. And sadly, unfortunately, it's not as busy as I would like it to be. Neither is the Warner Brothers lot or the Paramount lot. So we have to change that. Please. Bring film back to Los Angeles. Let's don't talk about Springsteen. Let's talk about getting more jobs for actors. Jesus. I digress, sorry.
We will talk about location shortly because you did film some things here in Los Angeles, but a lot of it, of course, very authentically.
Yeah. Of course, most of it we shot on location in New Jersey. You can't make a film about Bruce Springsteen and not shoot a film in New Jersey. Yes, I love New Jersey. Thank you. And we shot in New York City. But we also shot in Los Angeles because Bruce, as you see in the film, he did spend some formidable time in Los Angeles where he wrestled with many of the ghosts here. He wrote here. You can feel Bruce in the desert light and the hum of the freeway. He really loves Los Angeles. And anytime that I can bring a film back here, it means a lot to me on a personal note, only because we have the best crews and best, these New Yorkers, best actors in the country. No, but this film for me is an incredibly personal film, only because Nebraska is one of my favorite records. It came to me at the right time in my life, as a kind of disaffected 18-year-old who wasn't quite sure in his place in the world, and then Bruce Springsteen comes into it, and I have written a couple of other movies to the Nebraska album. And also, sadly, we're enduring a mental health crisis at the moment, and it touches all walks of life. It touches all socioeconomic classes, And I thought, if I can tell a story about Bruce Springsteen, who's at his personal low, but at his creative best over a very short amount of time, and that if he can get the kind of help that we see that he's gotten, then so can others.
Before we move past that, we just finished the crawl, and I want to acknowledge the last name on that crawl, who this film is dedicated to your father.
Yes, thank you. As I just mentioned, my dad, who formed most of my early musical tastes, introduced me to Bruce through Nebraska. And, sadly, he died the day before we started shooting the film. So his spirit kind of carried me through a film about many things, but one of the things is about fathers and sons. And my father, much like Bruce's father and many others, grew up in a time when men didn't discuss how their mental health struggles. There's a stigma around it. Didn't know how to give voice to their pain. Wouldn't, for fear of looking weak. So I related to that in many ways, and I would say this is one of the hardest films I've ever had to make. So I start with losing my father the day that we start shooting the movie. Then the last week of production, as I'm directing the Born to Run concert sequence, I get the devastating news, like so many of us here, that my house had burned in Palisades. So it was at once the worst year of my life, but working with Jeremy and Paul and Odessa and Francine and Bruce Springsteen and Jeremy White, it ended up being one of the best.
Well, Scott, we continue to thank you just for bringing us your artistry, and particularly with this project. And Jeremy, I want to go to you next, because just as Scott was talking about, this movie is unique in the way that it presents, in particular, male vulnerability and this incredible relationship that John and Bruce have had for all these years. What was it like to step into that?
Well, I love that it represents those things. Bruce Springsteen is such a kind of mythologized figure and is seen so heroically, and I guess to show in this age of sort of superheroes and idealizing and pedestalizing people. Part of Bruce's superpower is that vulnerability and the courage to face and heal old wounds. He told David Remnick 20 years ago that he saw himself as a repairman and that his job was to repair his wounds. And then, this movie is a movie about repairing trauma through art. But it's a big question, your question. I mean, one of the things in this process was just to try and understand the nature of this relationship between Bruce and John, which is really a singular relationship and a love story. The devotion that they've had to each other, particularly the devotion that John has had to Bruce for 50 years, the depth of his devotion, the depth of his understanding. And then, these are guys that they really give a shit. They give 10,000%. And that's something I know that all of us up here believe in. John wrote an essay. He was Jan Wenner's, the founding music critic for Rolling Stone before working with Bruce. He wrote an essay called Growing Young with Rock and Roll. And he said, without passion, he's like 28 years old, without passion, there is no commitment. Without commitment, there is nothing. No drive, no energy, no rigor, no intensity, and ultimately no honesty. And so I believe that. And, Bruce in his autobiography wrote about the ultimate question is, how deeply can you inhabit your song? It's not about writing a hit song, it's about how deeply you can inhabit a song. And that's our job as actors, we're inhabiting a song. The song is, in this case, John Landau or whatever it is. But so this whole experience has been profoundly wonderful. And for me, coming out of the last thing that I did, which was pretty dark, this was incredibly uplifting, as you can imagine, to spend time in Bruce's orbit.
Can we talk real quick about actually spending time in Bruce and John's orbit? Because they have not just kind of been out on the press tour for this film. Were there with you all and made themselves available to you and to Jeremy. What was it like to be able to not just, read about how they were as friends, but actually get to see it in person?
Well, I'll try and answer this quickly because there's a lot of us here. Both incredible, as you'd imagine, but also, since this is a room full of actors, we're trying, when we make a movie, we're trying to record songs on the edge of our bed also. Like we're trying to create an environment that has no scrutiny and that we can be as honest as possible. So part of that involves, walking onto a set. There's just so much shit there that you have to kind of, block out. So it was challenging having Bruce and John there, as well as it was incredibly beautiful having them there. But I think if you're locked in and focused and aware of the given circumstances and what's at stake for you, they kind of disappeared anyway. But the first time I saw them backstage, they have a ritual before every show. They hold each other, they touch each other's heads like rams. John sends him up the gangplank to this deafening roar. And then John's the first person to receive him after the concert. Bruce is drenched in sweat, and they embrace each other. They've been doing that for 50 years.
And it's so unique, Scott, that is what you capture in this movie. Like, this is very much us getting this true, actually, internal, behind-the-scenes look at this.
Yeah, and for me, obviously it's the central relationship of the film, and it's the love story. Obviously he has a relationship with Faye, which serves a different part of Bruce's life. But John Landau has been there, for 6 decades now. And it's not often that you get to see male tenderness in a film. And Jeremy White and Jeremy Strong are both such giving actors and so unafraid to play vulnerability and tenderness that
Not unafraid, but willing to.
Yes. That when you're in the presence of really, really great actors who have done the work, and when they show up and they express themselves the way they do and convey what it was that I was trying to convey, but then not only that, have John Landau and Bruce Springsteen be there, but not only that, have them see the film now 11 or 12 times, and they truly, truly love the film, and the way they speak about the Jeremy White and Jeremy Strong relationship, it's so heartening, I have to say. It's one of the great times in my directorial life.
Francine, I'm actually going to jump ahead to you here for a moment, because the challenge of making a movie like this is really creating an ensemble that is going to capture the full spirit. So when you hear Scott is going to Jeremy Allen White to play Bruce, and Bruce is on board, where do you then kind of go to as you're thinking about, okay, who am I going to throw out there next?
Well, Scott and I, how many movies have we done?
5 maybe?
Yeah, 5 movies, and I always say this and I say this to you, right? When Scott calls me, I don't even need to read the script. I just say yes, and and it's true. I just say yes. But then he happened to say, you have to understand, I'm a Jersey girl. That this was about Bruce Springsteen. And I think a lot of curse words came out of my mouth. And so I just have to, I guess, to answer your question, we work so well together. And even before Jeremy Allen White was cast, we collaborate. I mean, Scott knows what he wants. He knows the type of actors he wants to work with. He loves actors. He really loves actors. And actors love him, whether it be actors that are in this movie or actors way back, like Black Mass, Jesse Plemons. I mean, they just all want to work with him again. And so we just start one by one and build this ensemble, and somehow our communication just flows, and we end up getting the right people.
And Francine has this rare ability to be able to make the cast feel like they're all in the same key, that they're all rowing the same direction, and that they all are in the same movie. And that's a lot harder than it seems. She does that for all of my movies. She did a wonderful job this year with Sinners, and she has a Jim Brooks movie coming out. Francine is really exceptional. And also bringing talent to me that I was unaware of, like the wonderful Odessa Young.
There's nothing I love more than when you participate in the transitions. It's really actually so helpful. So Odessa, it is time to talk to you about Faye. I mean, this is an interesting idea because you are playing a character that's an amalgamation versus, having to go, one-to-one to any one person. Was that more challenging? I mean, I guess it's not really more or less challenging, but what did you make of that challenge?
Well, I think my process on this film was probably more like what we're all used to, because biopics are not the normal way of making films, but I had a very, very good script to work from. And there were, a couple of clues that were given in Warren's book, and a couple of things that Bruce spoke about himself in his own memoir that were kind of just, it served the more traditional way of working on a character, where you start with the script, you have your impression of it, and then you start to build clues. And the clues that I had were obviously very valuable because they came from the source, but also the little details that were in the script, like Faye being a circus showgirl and her being a single mother with, a previous failed relationship. These were things that came, as is my understanding, from Bruce when he and Scott started talking about who this character was supposed to be. So even though I didn't have a specific person to model a performance off or to talk to for details, I had a really solid bedrock to work from. And then the rest of it was just, Scott guiding me through. The thing that I love so much about Faye, and the direction that Scott led me in with Faye, was just a complete and utter openness and honesty and purity of want. She knows what she wants, and it's not for any kind of ulterior motive. She just sees potential in this relationship, not because Bruce is a superstar, but because he is a person that she enjoys being in the company of, and thinks that he enjoys that with her too. And she doesn't mince words, and she doesn't try to protect herself in that environment. She knows that she is strong enough for it. And Scott always every time we were shaping something in the room, it was always, I think, for that purpose of just making her a real truth teller as a character. And then if you're doing your job right, you are being a truth teller as an actor. So it was a very gratifying experience to play Faye.
It is beautiful, please.
It is a beautiful.
Y'all can get to the back of the house, yeah? Yeah, I can hear it. Yeah. Okay, to that point, I'm going to continue giving you that compliment that goes through the machine is not thrilled about. But that idea of Faye as... People left.
Doing back there?
That's okay. We're going to bring... You know what? It's them. Is it sabotaged by the Masked Singer? They're all jealous that they can't sing like Springsteen. So the point that I wanted to make was you said something really beautiful about this character and her relationship with Bruce, and this idea that in romantic relationships, oftentimes we're forced to face parts of ourselves that we don't want to face. What was it like for you and Jeremy kind of mapping out how this relationship was going to unfold?
Well, we didn't necessarily map it out. I think that there was an understanding that I think Scott and I think Francine thankfully saw something in me that I could bring to that part of the story that Jeremy was going to do because he had Bruce's whole soul inside of him, right? So I think that we kind of showed up in these environments, and the responsibility that you have is just to kind of catch the wave of whatever is happening in the kind of, I don't know, in the ether of the story. So we barely had any, we didn't rehearse. No way. Are we getting like signals? Like what's happening?
I don't think Masked Singer has any like links to the emergency alert system, so we can't blame them.
Okay, all right.
I hope this is not the last
Is
film
this
you
the
ever
last?
see. Somewhat catastrophic.
Yeah. I gotta say something really smart now. That'll be the last thing I say. Where were we?
You and Jeremy, because I don't like to
Oh,
rehearse.
yeah, okay, so Scott doesn't like to rehearse, and I think that is simultaneously a really terrifying thing and also a really liberating thing. The first time I walked on set, usually you show up to location and then someone whisks you up into the green room and you get touch-ups and then you get your wire on and you basically wait another 45 minutes once you're on set to actually get to even the camera rehearsal. And I show up on set and it's on location in the Colts Neck house. And Scott opened the door. He was right inside of the door when I opened the door, and he looked at me and he said, and everything was as quiet as it could possibly be. And he said, camera's rolling, Jeremy's right through there. and it was probably the worst take I've done in my career. But what happened was it kind of gave me this adrenaline rush that broke down any of my kind of, I don't know, like trying to do it right thing. So I walked in there and we did the scene and I kind of knew from that point that like we had to be so in it already. We had to be so warmed up to what we needed to be in that moment as characters, because that's what Scott was relying on us for. And so those scenes with Jeremy, walking into the walking into the carousel, and we, run the gamut of an early relationship. We just kind of knew what energy we had to show up with, and kind of just we had to let it happen. We had to get out of our way.
I'm in some ways still in the, do we have?
Oh no, it's my fault. Oh no, no.
Check.
I'll just say, like,
Is that the problem?
I think you've got Mike.
Give it a try into the mic. I think you might be okay. I know it's scary now.
not rehearsing is something that I'm really sort of opposed to rehearsals and find that Bruce says, like, when they're recording, that the first few times he has the band play the song, they play the music, and then maybe the third or fourth take they start performing the music. And so I feel like Scott has an intuition that by shooting the rehearsals, essentially, he captures something where we're playing, and and our lives depend on it because of what's at stake when you shoot the rehearsal. And personally, I think it's a really exciting way to work.
Yeah, I don't do very many takes, so and most actors that I work with know that. So it's a little bit like walking on a high wire, and when you watch these three actors do that, it's incredibly exciting. Paul Walter Hauser is great at that. Talk about an inventive actor.
Transition. In the name of Jesus, whatever box office spirit is lingering on the lot still, we ask that you be gone and go straight to the pit of hell. There we go. There wasn't even a question. What do you want?
I mean, honestly, that was kind of the energy I was hoping that you would bring, because it's the energy that you so wonderfully infuse into this film as well. You know, this is a movie that is there are lots of it is dark, but you are the one who kind of brings us that little bit of lightness and humor, and brings us back to reality at times. Tell me a little bit about being able to add that and what it was like to work with this amazing group. That was a long question that didn't need to be.
No, thanks. When Scott hit my people up and said, "Hey, I'm writing this role for you in this movie, you should come do this," I love the writing. Obviously, it's so well textured, and it meant so much just on the page. As I'm a very vulnerable, outspoken person when it comes to my own faults and fallacies, and so the vulnerability and the sort of anti-toxic masculinity thing of it all, I really love that. I knew Scott was a great director, and I knew, I'm a pastor's kid, so now I'm going to have to go back to, I made that joke a second ago, but or not a joke. Maybe that was a fucking spirit, we don't know.
Didn't hate it.
I don't know. But there's this, it's okay, that thing was broken anyway. There's a verse in the Bible that says, better is one day in your courts than 1,000 elsewhere. I'd rather be a doorkeeper in the house of God than dwell in the tents of the wicked. And I always copy and pasted that methodology as an actor, that I would rather be number 17 on the call sheet for a Scott Cooper movie than go star in some piece of shit. And so I looked at it like, I don't really have, yeah, man. I looked at it like, I don't really have a hard job. I know the character, it's fairly obvious, but the idea is to just try to inhabit. So, there's a scene that I don't even think made the movie where all the guys are listening to the playback in the recording studio together. And, we're all kind of like bit players in that scene, but I can feel the energy of like every guy's kind of wanting to do something in the scene, and we're actors. You ever have very little to do in a scene? You're like, I gotta fucking do something. But like my whole job in this movie, or anytime I get a gig and it's a supporting role, it's like, what am I living in right now? What is the life of the actual moment? Because some actors get really hoity-toity and they're like, I carry a secret with me everywhere I fucking go. And it's like, dude, chill out. Like, we're in a scene eating ice cream in a soda parlor. It's 1954. Like, I sometimes, though, part of my method as an actor, it's not this like overly irreverent, like, I hate acting school thing. That's not what it is. It's just being comfortable with saying, this is something very small. And it's like what De Niro told Ed Norton on the set of Stone. He walked up to him after a take. De Niro goes, hey, Ed, pulls him aside. And he goes, what you were doing in the scene? What you were doing? I think you need to... This is so fucked up to have to hear that from De Niro, but I remembered that, and I recall to mind when I'm on set of a movie and I go, okay, here's what you want to do because you love Chris Farley and Phil Hoffman, you want to be the big guy in the room. Bring it back down. Let's bring it back down. What is this about? And so this is a really fun role for me to step into Scott's world and say, how do I service this moment? How do I keep it real? And if he lets me improvise, how do I improvise for the sake of truth, not just to hear my own voice? And that's a really nice tool that gets sharpened when you work with great people.
I can't say enough good things about Paul and his process and what he brings to a set. I'd long wanted to work with him. We were going to do another film before this that didn't happen for scheduling reasons. So as I was writing this part, I had Paul in mind. And if you've seen my other films, they largely are devoid of humor. And I thought it would be a nice texture to have in yet another somber, dark film that seems to be my cause celeb. So I said to Paul, God, man, I don't know, these lines aren't meant to be so funny. I'm not a comic writer. Do you think you could work with these? He's like, oh yeah, I can do these. But he does it in a way that is so skillful and human and truthful in finding those moments that aren't humorous, but that are so relatable that anytime he would come on screen, I would just go, oh, thank God.
Well, to fairness though, some of the lines are funny. It's sometimes you've been around the script for so damn long, it's like you almost need that actor to just say it and go, oh yeah, that works. There is that thing, which is...
only Paul, if you imagine, and by the way, I don't know if you mentioned this before, but Jeremy Allen White, who was meant to be here, is ill and couldn't come tonight and really wanted to be. Did you guys like him? So there's a moment where Bruce is lying on the floor after having almost, or had contemplated committing suicide as he's driving. And he's listening to the band Suicide play a song called Frankie Teardrop, which Paul walks into the living room and Bruce is on the floor and he's doing this and he's listening to this, this really kind of manic, almost avant-garde rock song. And what I love about Paul and Mike Batlin is he can come in and say, someone commit a murder in here? This is kind of hard to dance to. And it's just, he's able to take lines and just give them so much humanity. Thank you, Paul.
Actually, speaking of Jeremy, I just want to clear this up really fast. On set, you kind of avoided the Jeremy of it all by referring to that.
Yeah, I always call actors, since my first film with Jeff Bridges, Crazy Heart, I always call my actors by their character names. Therefore, they're, I don't know, I've never, so Jeremy, in this scene, it just would feel so weird for me to, I don't even know if that has an effect on actors, but it's really more for me, just to be able to speak to them in ways that I'm speaking to the characters they're inhabiting. Hope it's not pretentious.
I think it's helpful.
Okay, good.
I mean, I have
7 movies in.
I have a very common name, so it really helps.
You're working very hard to create a sense of belief for yourself. So I would find it to be counterproductive to be pulled out of that sense of belief all the time. So I don't think it's pretentious at all. It's just, the whole thing is a game, but you're trying to kind of deepen the game and yeah. But John Landau went by JL1 and I was JL2, which I found a little upsetting, and so my private game was just to flip that order.
Well, here today, you are JL1.
I'm sure it is.
Francine, I wanted to talk to you about one other cast member, of course, who is not here as well, Matthew Pellicano Jr. This incredible discovery that you had, this amazing breakout star. Tell me a little bit about him.
Thank you. So I thought, well, was he 8 years old? 8 years old, and we
Not an actor.
wanted to be, but had never done anything. And so we put out the casting call for a young boy who resembles Bruce Springsteen, and we got in, thousands of auditions, and then this little angel showed up on tape and was so honest and authentic, which is the key to being in a Scott Cooper movie, that what I think you may find interesting about this, I didn't know they're all actors here. Hi, everybody. Is that after he did his self-tape, because he lived in New Jersey, Scott did a callback with him. And what was really fascinating about the callback is Scott asked him to improvise and gave him certain prompts, but asked him to do it without words. And so, Scott, do you want to speak to that? Because it was so amazing. Because that face, right, is just.
And one of the things that Francine so smartly says is, yes, we're casting young Bruce Springsteen, but we're also casting young Jeremy Allen White, because that's who's playing Bruce Springsteen.
I did.
Huh?
I did.
Yeah, or maybe I said. Most child actors, and I've had child actors in a lot of my films, and I never cast, at that age, young children actors, because they come to set having had their parents coaching them. So when I bring them in and I give them direction, they can't take it unless they hear it from the parents. So I like to find young kids. And Francine put out this call to YMCAs and Boys and Girls Clubs in America, and kids who were just out playing in the streets. And he had such an emotional transparency that just even in his self-tape, that I thought, if I can take away whatever direction his mom has given him on that day that they auditioned, and completely remove that, and it's just as it will be on set, young Matthew and me giving him direction. But to be able to do it all wordlessly, which I don't think he was going to be asked to do. And I could see that he had a real soulful innocence, that in his incredible nerves that he was dealing with by trying to figure out how he could play this scene wordlessly, that I could see immediately that he is going to convey to the audience everything that we need. And Francine said, I think Francine must have probably given me 1,000 kids to look at, or 800. And she said, this is the one.
Well, he was able to, Scott, what was amazing is he was able to, without words, show fear and love for his father.
And this connection that Bruce always wanted with his father. If you recall, there's a scene where the young boy's just waiting for his dad to drive up and he pulls up, and he races to the steps, just waiting for that connection. And that connection never comes. And the only time that connection came, which is what you see in the film, which actually happened as much as it did in the film, was when Bruce sat on his father's lap for the first time. And though his father never told him he loved him, he did have that moment of connection with him that he had not had for 23 years since the little boy was 8.
I mean, it is, like we've been discussing this whole time, it is truly so striking to get a chance to know the actual man behind the myth, and we thank you all for giving us that. But before we go, we'll end on a lighter note, because I do want to know, and I think everybody here wants to know, what it's like to now know Bruce Springsteen. So I'm going to start with our Jersey girl, Francine, and we'll work our way back.
It was on set.
Okay. I don't know if I'm supposed to share this. This is really not going to make me look good. But, so I went to the Stone Pony, and I don't tend to go to sets. I'm on the next movie, and I don't know, I don't feel I belong. But I had to go to the Stone Pony. So I show up in this little club, and I open the door, and Bruce just walks by. And I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And people are taking pictures with him. And I think your wife said to me, do you want to take a picture with him? And I go, oh, no, I couldn't do that. No, I couldn't take a picture. I can't. And then the day goes by, and I think, what am I, crazy? I have this opportunity to take a picture with Bruce Springsteen. You have to understand, I was in the nosebleed section, at wherever in Jersey I was. I crossed the highway, because I couldn't afford to park, so crossed the highway, and yes, I saw 20 concerts, but way up. So there he was past, and so I say to Scott's wife, so there's the monitor, and behind the monitor is Bruce, Spielberg, and Scott. So I say to Scott's wife, okay, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go behind the chairs, and I'll lean in, and you just take a picture without Bruce knowing that I'm asking him for a picture. And that's the picture I have of Bruce.
Okay, Paul, what about you?
That's oh man, that's wild. I didn't get to meet Spielberg Scott. So I lived briefly at 7965 Fairholme Drive, which is up in Laurel Canyon. And I rented it out for 6 months because I was trying to prove to my wife that I loved her so much that I could spend her money recklessly. And I was there from about May of 2022 to the fall in October. And I realized while living there, while Googling the home, that Bruce Springsteen had owned it for like 20 years or something. And I didn't realize, if not longer. So I conceived a child in Bruce's bedroom. Then I met Bruce, and I told him that, and he goes, "Me too, same room." So we had a nice little rapport right out the gate. It was awesome.
Instant besties. Odessa, what about for you?
Wow. I mean, I think my favorite Bruce moment personally was introducing him to my father. My dad came to visit me on set, and my dad is the reason that I love Bruce Springsteen so much. And I remember he was standing outside my trailer. I think I was in hair and makeup, but my dad was kind of just hanging outside my trailer. And I came back, and he had this look on his face that was like, I was going, "What's happened?" And he said, I just saw him. And I guess Bruce, I didn't even know Bruce was going to be on set that day. It was the one day that my dad could come to set, and I was like, look, he might not be there. I hear that he's been going to set a bit, but he might not be there. And then, you know, my dad watched him get out of his car and get into another car. I don't know how he gets around. And then we got to set, and it was the day we were shooting in Bayonne, outside Faye's house. And we walked off the kind of shuttle from unit base to set, and I get off and I see Bruce right in front of me. And I kind of turn around to my dad and I was like, okay, it's going to happen. Are you ready? And he's going, and it was just so perfect. It was so beautiful. And Bruce made conversation with my father. My father managed to keep his shit together. He, you know, basically was, you know, 3 sentences away from telling Bruce's own story back to him. And then the next day I came to set. It must have been a few days later. Bruce, I guess I walked by the monitors and Bruce was there and he said, "Oh, I left something in your trailer." And I went back to my trailer and there was a copy of Warren Zanes' book that Bruce had signed and also gotten Warren to sign to my father.
You know, it's probably some kind of transference from the dynamic of the film, but I've come to feel just an immense tenderness and protectiveness for Bruce. And yeah, I mean, he's just the best, and I love him. And you know, I guess the thing that I think about him when I think about him now is that he's still, and he'll be the first person to share this with you, he's still squarely in the struggle of life as much as all of us are. And he's so in touch with that's what allows him to be the artist that he is. We were in London last week and we were together and sitting there, and he was saying, you know, I think that imagine there's a car, and in that car is everyone you've ever been in your life. You when you're 5, you when you're 12, you when you're 20, 30, 50 now. And the real work is at any given moment, who's driving the car? And, you know, that's just like, that's
incredible.
It's incredible, yeah. So he's everything you'd imagine him to be, and no more and no less.
Yeah.
Before you answer, I just want to say one thing. What is it like to know also that this film, as John puts it, is the first time in 50 years that Bruce has let somebody else drive the car?
Incredible, exhilarating, gratifying, terrifying, because Bruce means so much to so many people. People have ownership over Bruce. They have preconceived notions of what they want a film about Bruce to be. And I think when they probably came to it wasn't this. So often we're told, don't meet your heroes because they will inevitably disappoint you. Bruce Springsteen has far exceeded my expectations in every regard. He's incredibly humble. He's so kind, decent. I mentioned at the top of this that while shooting the film, my house burned, and Bruce says to me, "Scott, get your wife, your daughters, your dogs, move them into my house here in Los Angeles," where we lived until we got on our feet. My daughter Stella, whose guitar burned with everything else, what does Bruce Springsteen do? He sends her one of his. I've made 7 films.
You get a guitar. You get a guitar. And Paul should have.
I didn't get a guitar.
So this experience, I've made 7 movies. 2 times they've changed my life. My very first film, when I wrote a screenplay for Jeff Bridges, and Jeff said yes, that changed my life. And this last one, by meeting Bruce Springsteen, who has taught me how to live life differently and I'm so blessed. Thank you, Bruce.
Really, thank you to all of you. Thank you to all of you for sticking with us. Remind everybody you know, on Friday, Springsteen.
So much.